so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting, especially since they're helping to fund all the cool projects we have in the works, such as the Positive Head app, the docuseries that I'm intending to begin shooting within the next year, and whatever else we dream up over here at Positive Headquarters to help spread consciousness across the planet. Now, if you're short on time or just super excited for today's topic and want to dive right in and skip these ads, feel free to fast forward about
2.5 minutes
to get right into today's show. That being said, I strongly encourage you to listen because the reason I'm passionate about my sponsors is because they've made a huge impact in my own life, which is why I've aligned with these organizations. And I firmly believe they can do the same for you too. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positive head. That's spelled GAIA.com/positive head. The second sponsor I'm extremely passionate about promoting is Purium. The reason I've aligned Positive Head with Purium is because I wholeheartedly stand behind their mission to end human suffering by making superfoods easily available to everyone, with the ultimate goal to help restore mankind's harmony with nature in the process. I mean, what a noble mission, right? It's no mystery that you need to bring your mind, body, and spirit into balance if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and grandest version of themselves. And for me, for years, I honestly felt like I was ahead of the curve in the mind and spirit category, but I was only average at best in the level of care I administered to my body. Sure, I was healthy-ish when it came to the food I put into my system, but after doing a Purium 40-day transformation with a 10-day metabolic reset and cleanse, I can honestly say I have reestablished my relationship with food in a very positive way. Not only did I drop the extra weight that I was carrying as a natural byproduct of the transformation so that I'm now at my ideal body weight, but I continue to feel like my best self by starting every day with an organic Purium power shake that is made from raw superfood ingredients that were meticulously harvested, thoughtfully combined to optimize the nutritional impact it has on my body. I view the shake as plant medicine, really, and it happens to taste really delicious, and I can make it in about 30 seconds. There's actually 4 core Purium products that I take every day, and honestly, I intend to do so for the rest of my life for a very scientifically sound reason. And if you want to learn more about those reasons, you can go check out my video at positivehead.com/transformation, where I go into more detail. If you end up buying any of the Purium products, be sure and use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for a 25% discount. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. It is a terrific Tuesday here in the studio as I record. I hope you are making it terrific wherever, whenever you are as well. I have a great, wonderful clip to share today from Abraham. Possibly the best ever. I've been listening to Esther Hicks, Abraham for over a decade probably. And at least today it really resonated. And it may be because I just happened to stumble across it, after yesterday's episode. When we were talking about shifting gears on a story that you don't want to see more of. And I happened to just stumble across this clip, and it's even more potent than the one that I shared yesterday in that episode, I feel. And it's really... it really hit in. Sometimes you hear things and it just like lands in a new way, right? And it's a big part of this show. We're saying a lot of the same things over and over, but each time you hear it, it's a slightly different angle. You're a slightly different person than you were a week ago or a month ago or a year ago when you maybe heard something similar, right? And so it's constantly sort of coming at you in a way that just can land in a new way. And it's kind of like that light bulb goes off, and it's that I definitely had that experience today listening to this clip in regards to how to solve every problem. And we're going to dig into that here in a moment. Before we do, a couple quick things I want to throw out. The Outside In Equinox Festival is happening this coming weekend in Santa Barbara. The 20th or 21st, you can come early on the 20th, or 21st to the 23rd or morning of the 24th, depending when you leave, at Live Oak Campground. One of my favorites, Lucidity Festival. I've been, half a dozen times to Lucidity, is there. Just such a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you've ever wanted to go to a festival but not have the hardship of, like, say, a Burning Man experience, and you're near Santa Barbara in any way, Live Oak is it. It's just beautiful. There's showers. There's all these beautiful oak trees. If you guys are interested in that, it is called the Outside In. If you search on Facebook, Outside In Equinox Fall 2018, you can get a link to tickets. And if you use the code POSITIVEHEAD, you actually get, all one word, caps, you get $30 off. So I'm going to be there. Chris Jackson, who's a regular co-host, is going to be there. Some other P-heads are going to be there. Hope to see you there if you're around. So should be a good one. Also, for those of you who are looking to get in on the next Purium transformation /cleanse / metabolic reset, there is one starting at the 1st of next month, a big group. If you are interested in doing that, you can, to get more information, you can email purium@positivehead.com. You can also join the Positive Heads Facebook group, which is, there's the Positive Heads Facebook group where a lot of people that have participated before are, but I've also set up a new one just for things superfood, health and Purium related, and that is Positive Plant Posse. So if you want to join that and connect and ask questions there or email, but highly, highly, highly recommended. I did it a bunch of us did it several months back. I'll be doing it again as well coming up, and it is definitely a game changer, has been a game changer for me. And it's why I aligned with Purium and doing, you can always do the transformation. I recommend the 40-day ultimate nutrition plan. The 10 days is in the middle. And you can always do it alone, but obviously having the support of dozens of other people is super nice and helpful to kind of take that journey. So that's going to be kicking off at the 1st of the month, and highly, highly recommend that. Okay, one last thing, and then we're going to jump into the topic, is a review on iTunes by Nick Ackley. You guys know I love getting iTunes reviews from you. It is definitely fuels my fire to continue this labor of love. And this particular one, and if you haven't reviewed, I'd love you if you did. And this one that came in by Nick says, "This podcast has changed my life. Thank you, Brandon. Hearing Brandon read from Oneness has completely shifted my thinking. I got divorced and moved back home in May. This has been an extremely challenging transition for me. I felt my body and mind getting perpetually stuck in undesirable states that seemed to have no end. I needed to find a different way of rethinking everything in my life. Thankfully, the universe drew me to type in positive into the podcast search, What has happened in my life since has been nothing short of remarkable. Brandon's reading of oneness has allowed me to see my life through an entirely different lens and has now given me the mental and emotional clarity I needed to achieve positive growth forward in my life. Now everything is coming together for me. I met a sweet, sensitive man that I feel an amazing connection with. This is what I was vibrating outward. The planets are now literally aligning around me, and all of this is happening seemingly with no real effort on my part. I am eternally grateful for the Positive Head podcast. You saved my life and have now expanded it to a level I hadn't dreamt. Thank you, Brandon and Positive Heads community. I love you so much. We are the oneness and we have come to guide you home. Oh, I love this review. Thank you, Nick. It's beautiful. And you are doing it, my friend. And congratulations on this big turning point in your journey. It's a big one when you start, realizing as Nick even said here, it kind of starts happening effortlessly when you remove resistance. Everything that's in your vortex, everything you've ever wished of or dreamed for, happens instantly in the eternal now. And this is something that Esther or Abraham talks about a lot, and you're going to hear in this clip, and I want to reiterate that before we go into it, is everything that you've ever thought of, dreamed of, wished for, instantly is manifested in your vortex, your vibrational escrow, where, imagine if you were a genie and you wished for something and it instantly appeared, but it's not visible, right? It's in a holding place. It's in a holding cell somewhere. Cell's not a good word, but you get the idea. It's somewhere outside of visibility. So that's basically what Esther is talking about, what Abraham is talking about when they talk about the vortex. So imagine every time you've wished, I wish I had more money. I wish I could have that partner. I wish, and it was instantly there. Now, the game, this is the game we came here to play, is to get in alignment with seeing that manifested physically, right? And so that's the game we're all here playing. And what's happening is, as Nick has removed any resistance to the things that are coming effortlessly, they start popping in, right? And that's really the aim here, is to become these graceful manifestors that allow things that are in our vibrational escrow to in our vortex to manifest relatively easily. We manage our vibration, and that's really the only game in town. That's the only job you're here to do. And what this clip today is going to talk about is how we can more effectively do that. And like I said, for me, it was one of those light bulb moments, and I believe it will be for you as well. So I'm going to just go ahead and dive right in, because it's a little bit longer than the normal clips I share, and then we're going to talk about it. This one is called How to Deactivate Unwanted. And it's kind of an interesting title, How to Deactivate Unwanted, and there's a little cherry emoji. And it says Abraham-Hicks 2018, and I found it on Abraham-Hicks Thoughts YouTube page. Take a listen.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I had a dream a few weeks ago. I had a dream that I was going to get in the hot seat, but I was going to have nothing to talk about. Not entirely the truth now, but I knew I was going to get here anyways, and I was having visions of seeing myself on the screen and everything, so it works.
That's taking a little peek into the vortex. And you also did, in your dream, what a lot of people do. They take a peek, and then they kind of freak out a little bit. You could see yourself there, but then your insecurities got in there too. So apparently, you cleared some of those up, because there you were, all bright and shiny. Yeah.
I felt bright and shiny.
Yep.
I felt it.
Yep.
I knew it. Oh, it's so good. All right, so the core of my question is a big kind of like block that I've been feeling for a while, because I've been listening to you for a while, and I'm so on it, and I so get it, and I'm so with it, but I'm seeing this kind of like discrepancy, because I'm feeling that on one hand, I really know I can focus in the direction of things that I want, and I can see past the place that I am. I can really see the potential of things, but I've seen in myself a tendency to ignore some things that are, and in doing so, try to push them away, which makes them grow.
Well, everything you're saying is accurate. In other words, when you try to push anything away, there's no exclusion, so you just make it more. So anytime you try to push something away, you just introduce it in a stronger way into the equation, which causes more resistance.
Yes, and it builds and builds and builds.
Before you go further, we just want to insert an analogy, an example of something that everyone can relate to rather easily. Picture yourself tuning some electronic device. And while there is thought about it, maybe you're even looking at a gauge, and maybe you even know what frequency you're reaching for. So that's the thought. You're trying to find a specific frequency. But isn't the feedback to what you are finding even more important than the deliberate intention of finding it? Do you follow what we're getting at?
Yes.
We've been saying you create your own reality, and thoughts create. And you get what you think about whether you want it or not. So that's all thought, which makes you get a little worried about your thoughts. We see you thinking and then trying to take the thoughts back before law of attraction gets hold of it. Cancel. Well, we prefer that you understand that it's more like thinking and feeling, thinking and feeling, thinking and noticing, thinking and noticing. It's like any artist, whether they're painting or sculpting or even creating something musically, they are doing the thought thing, but then they are taking the feedback, and from the feedback they are responding with them. Smoother thoughts, more responsive thoughts. Yes? So this applies here, doesn't it?
Totally. Yeah, okay. I see that because, I see when I try to drag, there's a difference between feeling that and knowing where I'm going to go.
But you see, you know what you're talking about, and this is the perfect time in this conversation for us to have this discussion. You are talking about what we were just talking about what am I under the influence of when I'm doing the thinking, when I'm taking the action. Because sometimes you're aware that it isn't going the way you want it to, and so then you start trying to figure out what to do to improve it, and you never get good answers then. And sometimes you're in the receiving mode, you're just feeling satisfied, and you're moving from the feeling of inspiration. But here's what's tricky for you, and it doesn't need to be. We're going to clear it up right now. You all really want to practice what the receiving mode from this receiving mode feels like and what the receiving mode from something else feels like. You want to practice what influence you're under. When you feel an emotion, whether it feels good or bad to you, just ask yourself, is this a satisfying feeling or not? And once you figure that out, and that's so easy to do, then if it's a satisfying feeling, then say, I'm in the receiving mode, I think I will proceed. And if it isn't a satisfying feeling, then I'm under the influence of my own doubts, my own fears, my own worries, somebody else's paranoia, somebody else who thinks they know better than me, blah, 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 blah. And the reason that this matters, this is the analogy that we've offered for years and we like it so much. Esther remembers being in San Francisco for the first time and seeing those hills that people were actually driving on. She couldn't get it out of her mind. She couldn't believe that she was going to drive up that hill, and she couldn't believe she was going to drive down that hill. It was unlike anything she ever thought anybody should be driving on. And so we said, imagine being stopped at the top of the hill. You can see the bay way down there, way down there. So take your car out of gear, take the parking brake off, put it in neutral, in other words, get behind it and just bump it and see what happens. Just for fun. See what knocking your car forward a few feet will accomplish. Well, it's pretty clear what would happen. But maybe you come to your senses and you think, whoa. So before it really gets rolling, you just stand out in front of it and you let it bump you. But it stops. Because there was so little momentum, it took very little to stop it. But you wouldn't want to be down there at the bottom at the bay trying to stop that car right before it went in, because it would take you in with it. So momentum is an obvious conversation, but most people don't think about momentum of thoughts. Thoughts, everything. Law of attraction causes momentum in everything. Because if you hold a thought for as little, we used to say 17 seconds, now we're saying closer to 16 seconds, it's somewhere in there. If you hold a thought for as little as 16, 17 seconds, 16, 17, some 16, 16 seconds, if you're holding the thought for that long, another thought like it will join it. And if you now hold that thought, another thought like it will join it, until once you get over a little over a minute of that kind of momentum, now there's enough momentum in law of attraction to affect something that you will notice with your physical senses. It doesn't take much. Now, most people think that that's too short of a time. For a while, when we first started talking about that, people were carrying timers around, and we encouraged them to cut that out. They're trying to hold a thought without contradicting it for a little while. The reason that seems like an inordinately short period of time to most people is because most people do not hold a thought without contradiction for even 16 seconds. You've got this thought but going on because you've been trained to be so objective, so weighing the pros and the cons and the pluses and the minuses, that you don't really very often deliberately get a thought going. Well, that's why we don't want you to train your thoughts. It'll make you crazy. We want you to care about being satisfied, because that's the response to the thought. And just looking for something that feels satisfying, caring about being satisfied, which is the same thing as saying care about being in the receiving mode, which is the same thing as saying care about being in a vibrational equivalent to everything that you want that's in your vortex and your inner being. Oh, there's power in that. One who's connected to all of that is more powerful than millions who are not. There is so much leverage in your own absence of contradicted energy. And yet almost no one is working at that at all. They just sort of bumble through life and take life as it comes. And when something happens that is not satisfying, would you believe they keep talking about it? They keep talking about it. Keep it going. Do you know something could have happened to you 20 years ago? Remember that thing? And it would not be affecting your now vibration at all. It wouldn't even be in the mix if you weren't talking about it 19 years ago and 18 years ago and 17 years ago and 16 years ago and yesterday. And a lot of reason you talk about it is because you're trying to justify something maybe, or maybe you're trying to entertain. But the point that we're making is you keep things that weren't satisfying when they happened active in your vibration, and they continue to not be satisfying, and they continue to pile up on you and be the reason that these new fresh things that you just found don't just flow instantly and easily into your experience. Life is supposed to be fun and fast. Yeah. All right, so now
I get all that, and I can feel when
you sat down, you said, I have this big, maybe you used the word block.
I did, yeah.
Let's go right there.
Okay, so the block is, when is it advantageous to focus on those unsatisfying things that happened?
Never.
But
that's when.
But then how do you move them out of your experience? Because like I said,
Can't move anything you're looking at.
But
it sticks to you like glue.
So I know that. But it's like, it's almost as if part of my awareness is focused on where I want to be, but part of it just does not let go, and it just like...
But we're explaining to you what you're doing that doesn't let it go. You can't look forward and behind you at the same time. Pick one.
But how do those things, how do they stay active then? Because I do so much looking forward.
The reason that it feels not just difficult, but close to impossible, and others are agreeing with you, what we just told you to do doesn't feel possible because law of attraction keeps bringing it to you. So you have to find a way of focusing in a way that law of attraction doesn't bring it to you, which means you've got to deactivate it. Well, when you decide to deactivate something, guess what you do? You activate it.
Yes.
So how do you deactivate something? By activating something else. Or reboot. Shut it all down. We are recommending a lobotomy. We are recommending a practiced meditation where you quiet your mind. It might take you a week to get so your mind is really quiet. But when you focus on some sound in a room, can you hear something in this room? Fan? Or dripping faucet? Just focus on something that doesn't take much thought, but that does require focus. When you focus upon something, and when your mind wanders, and it will go back to focus on that. And when your mind wanders, and it will go back to focus on that. And when your mind wanders, and it will go back to focus on that. Usually within about 15 or 20 minutes, you can find a minute or two of a quieted mind. And when you quiet your mind, you stop all thought. You stop all thought. Now hear this. We have not said this clearly before. Remember those two parts of you that we were talking about? The inner being you and the you here in this physical body? You quiet the you's mind down. The inner being's mind is the only mind that is active. The inner being's mind is focused unequivocally, inextricably, only completely, specifically upon everything that you have become. So when you quiet this for a brief moment in time, you are that. In other words, you just move right there. Your vibration rises. It's like the frequency of your inner being is a magnetic point of attraction, and when you are not offering any opposing vibration, off you go right into vibrational alignment with that. And then you're in sync with the new intention. And that old thing that happened that was active before is not active now. Now, will that one time cause all propensity to think about it to not exist? No, because there's still some momentum. Something's going to happen. You'll hear a song. Somebody will say a word. There are all kinds of triggers in your environment that could potentially take you back there. But if you quiet your mind often enough for a week or two or three or four until you establish a new vibrational relationship with the desire part of this subject rather than the lack of desire part of this subject, now it's easy. And then the conversation that we have, instead of it being, oh, Abraham, I just can't stop thinking about that, the conversation will be, I can't even remember the last time I thought about that. It's like it just goes away. It literally changes your frequency and therefore your perspective and therefore your past, really. It changes your relationship with your past. You're now, there are 15 analogies flooding into Esther's mind simultaneously. Your now moment in time overwrites everything that you've lived before. Now, that feels confusing to you because you think you have memory. You don't have memory. What memory is transmitting and receiving mechanism. In other words, you don't have a storage cabinet that's storing all this stuff. You are transmitting and receiving vibrations and translating them into what you are calling your memory or your knowledge. Sit with that just for a moment. It's really chewy. So, in every moment, everything's being written over. Do you have any computer programs like that override everything that came before? In other words, the now just keeps updating. You make a change and it changes. You know what we're talking about? Maybe not. So, I'll give you another analogy. So, in your now, in alignment with Source, your vortex, which contains all that you've evolved to, becomes dominant, and everything is overridden. If you have more debt than you have money, overridden. The money overrides it. If you have a bad relationship and a good one in the vortex, overridden. We're not kidding you. You can stay current with your now vibrational reality. So after a while, things that used to be active that you kept updating, you're no longer updating, so they don't keep coming with you. And in their place is the new perspective, more important, the new point of attraction. The way we've said it to you that might be easier to hear, although we really liked what we just said to you. Everything is always changing, but for most, it's just changing to the same thing over and over and over again. Because you keep having the same thoughts about the same sorts of things, and so you just keep becoming new in the old way. And then it feels to you like things aren't getting better. Well, things are changing, but they're changing to what's active in your vibration. Is this making sense to you? So now, give us some really good questions. So is there anything to do other than meditate, really?
Well, so meditating I get, and I love...
No, you don't.
Well, yes, I do. There's sometimes...
We know that you get it, but do you understand that it will solve the problem that we are discussing here? It will change your vibrational frequency, and therefore it will change your point of attraction, and therefore tomorrow you could have an entirely different discussion. It will change the thoughts that flow into your mind. It changes everything. Right here and now is where all of your power is. And this is this junction where you meet you. And your inner being has been completely updated. When you know what you don't want, you put something that you do want in your vortex, and your inner being becomes it. So every time you ask for more money, your inner being, the vibrational you of you, becomes more prosperous. Every time you're confused, you become clearer. Every time somebody is not nice, the world becomes nicer. Every time you're not nice, you become nicer. Every time there's a contrasting experience, there's a vibrational reality that is the new and improved version, which most people don't move immediately to because you're too busy justifying why you wanted that by pointing out what's wrong with all of this. So you keep the stuff that you don't want active in your vibration, and then it's stuck in your vibrational cross, so it keeps affecting your point of attraction. And then you say, see, it's true. This is how it happens. And then we say, meditation will clear that. And you say, well, I really know about meditation, but I think there are some other things that I would rather do. And we say, rather than just update the vibrational frequency and get in sync with who you really are and everything that you want, why would you choose less than that? For the screenplay?
Well, herein is the real question then, is when I'm in meditation, there's nothing wrong. I'm floating. It's glorious. Like, I can't get enough of it.
Take note of his tone of voice.
Anyone who's been there knows.
Now he's trying to get you in on it.
Get in on it. If you haven't done it, do it every day. Listen to this person because it is amazing.
What we're playing with you is, what you're saying is, in meditation, everything's all hunky-dory. But there was a tone in your voice that was implying a backup statement that says, but my reality hasn't really changed yet. We heard it from a lot of you. Abraham, how can I get my money out of the vortex and into the bank? We get it. In religions, they call it faith. Here, we call it understanding how the laws of the universe work and understanding that how you feel is where you're going, and that if you can find, Esther's been asking herself 100 times or more every day, is this satisfying? Is that thought satisfying? Is this dream that I just dreamed in the night, is it satisfying? Because that answer to that question indicates to her whether she's under the influence of source or whether she's under the influence of something else. And Esther's at the point now where if the answer is, I'm under the influence of something else, she can change it. And here's why. In the early days, we talked about pivoting. When you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. But momentum and law of attraction don't let that be an easy pivot. Jerry had an analogy where if you're sitting in front of a fireplace and the log spits a spark at you and it gets on your sweater, if you flick it off immediately, nothing happens. But if you don't flick it off immediately, it will burn a hole right into your sweater. So the analogy is, if you are keen to the idea of satisfying thoughts, and you're catching the not satisfying thoughts in the early subtle stages, so that you don't brood about it, you don't dwell about it, you don't blog about it, you don't talk about it, you don't write reports about it, you don't hold meetings about it, you don't yammer on and on and on about it. Then you flicked it off and it doesn't affect you, and it won't be long before something will happen. You'll launch the rocket of desire, and the rocket of desire will be the easiest thing for you to focus upon.
Okay. I love that idea.
Wow, wasn't that incredible how much insight and wisdom and breaking it down was packed in there? I mean, that was definitely highly inspired. I'm inspired by it. And so let's talk a little bit about it. So, you know, she started off saying anytime you try and push something away, you draw it to you, right? What you resist persists. And we know that. We talk about that a lot. So it becomes a tricky dance. How do we deal with this? You know, we start paying attention to something that you don't want and you get more of it. You know, I think of, you guys may have heard me talk about this before. Interesting thing. They teach race car drivers who are, you know, on the racetrack. If they start going towards the wall, you know what they teach them? Whatever you do, don't look at the wall. Look away from the wall. Because what happens if you look at the wall? You hit it every time. It's such a great example of how this phenomenon works. That's what they teach them. There's a reason. Don't look at the wall. Look away. Look away from that which you don't want. And that is so powerful. Now, we get into the nuance of doing that, and it gets a little tricky sometimes. It's very tempting to look at the wall and talk about the wall and the color of the wall and how big it is and on and on and on. And, you get what you think about whether you want it or not. And, what's happening is a lot of times we're then talking about these things. We're creating groups. We're having Facebook threads. We're doing all these things to talk about it. And you're talking about facts. You've allowed in, but not all the facts. Like there's more to the story oftentimes that you can tell that you're not focused on. There's other facets of a topic that is causing you discord that you're not always focusing on. So, and the thing is you always are feeling terrible because when you're feeling terrible because you're not matching up with your true point of attraction, she talked about here, the two yous, right? The physical you, the 3D operating you, and the inner being, right? Well, the inner being is always there in the same place saying, you can do it, you can do it. What you want is here. What you want is here. It's pure positivity, as she talks about, right? And, that's really what we're trying to figure out how to get to. We're trying to find, as she said, a specific frequency to align with that. And I love how she talked about the feedback to what you're finding in any given moment is even more important than the deliberate intention of finding it. So first we're saying, okay, we got to figure out what our frequency is. But the feedback is really what you act on. Your whole job here becomes thinking, noticing, and responding to the feedback. And the question is always, what am I under the influence of when I'm doing the thinking and taking the action? If it's a satisfying feeling, or not, right? You can always ask yourself that. Is this a satisfying feeling or not? What am I under the influence of? This is easy to do, to ask this question. Get in the habit of asking this question over and over and over all day, every day. What am I under the influence of in this moment? And if it's a satisfying feeling, then you're in the receiving mode, so you can proceed, right? If you're not satisfying, you're under the influence of your demons, right? You're under the influence of that devil on your shoulder. We've all seen the depiction in cartoons, right? Of the cartoon on one shoulder and the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. That's a good analogy for it. So, what am I? Which one am I listening to right now? And if it's not it's not feeling good, then okay, we need to do something about that. And she talked about, this idea of holding a thought for 16 to 17 seconds. And then now you have a momentum like a car going down a hill. This is a technique, one technique that she goes over here. And after over a minute, you really get the momentum going like a car down a hill. The way you're normally kind of operating, most people, that you have a thought that's in alignment with your inner being, your vortex, etc. And then a but comes in. And so you're like, it's like stop, start all the time. Not normally even 16 seconds of, this good momentum going. And so when you bring this to your conscious instead of, unconsciously, operating in this way, you become conscious of this. Now you can consciously work on creating the momentum, holding the momentum. And we got to do this if we care about being satisfied. And that equates to being in receiving mode. And that equates to being in vibrational receiving mode for what is in your vortex. And as she said, this is more powerful than millions who are not. It's funny because I had this, for some reason, this popped into my head yesterday. About the idea of one can be more powerful than millions. And here it's being reiterated as to how. I just realized that in the moment. It randomly popped into my head yesterday. And the reason it's so powerful, we're discussing all of that. You get to create and unlock all the things that are in your vortex. But here's the thing. What's crazy is almost no one is working on this at all. Hardly anyone is using this formula to create what they want to see more of in their reality. When something happens, what's not satisfying, typically they talk about it, sometimes for decades, as she pointed out. I love how she very matter-of-factly said, cut the guy off. It's never advantageous to focus on the things you don't like. You can't move anything you're looking at. It sticks to you like glue. It's like the wall for the race car driver. She went on to say, you can't look forward and backward at the same time. Okay, so what do? We have to deactivate it. Well, if you look at it, you activate it. And that's where this gets really tricky, right? And nuanced. And so she talked about this meditation technique. And that's really what sunk in for me here. It's like, wow, how important meditation is. When your mind wanders, and it will, go back to focusing on something. She used a water drop. You can use your breath. You can use whatever for 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll ultimately stop all the thoughts for 1 to 2 minutes at some point. After a bit, you shut up in the physical you, and you're in your inner being, right? Which is always in alignment, unequivocally, with your higher self, with everything you want. You are it. It is you. You have now become your higher self in that moment. Now you're in sync with your new intentions. Now you are it. Now you are super, super power. It's like plugging into the ultimate light socket. Why aren't we doing this more? So, why aren't we quieting our mind often enough to establish a new vibrational alignment with the desire part of the subject instead of the undesired part of the subject? If you do that and you say, I'm out of alignment. I'm checking in, checked in again. I'm out of alignment. Is this feeling satisfying or not? Oh, it's not. I'm out of alignment. Here's something that I can do, right? This is something that you can do. This is why using meditation to not just be calm and quiet, but to superpower yourself with what you want, right? That's the big aha moment for me. Like, gosh, this is, Osho said, don't just do something, sit there. And I believe this is what he's saying is like, you want to create and manifest all the things you want. Don't just do something. Don't just run around acting on things external of self that are really just, reflections of past vibrational offerings. That it doesn't make any sense, right? Get to the core of how you create what you want to see next. You don't want to move around what you've already created. Yeah, of course, there's a moment in time for taking action physically, right? But you're learning to dance this dance between the co-creative part, and then now I'm from a place of alignment, of feeling good. Then I take action. I'm following my intuition, and it's with a healthy sense of relaxation, finesse, detachment. That's how you gracefully create. I love how she breaks down here. Your now moment in time overwrites everything you've lived before. We talk about a lot of talk lately about us living in a simulation. A lot of parallels to create to computer programs here in this 3D reality. And we I always talk about the Russian nested dolls. It's all fractals. It's all the same stuff, right? And you're understanding that. Your now moment in time overwrites everything you've lived before. Memory, she said, I thought that was really interesting. It's not a storage cabinet transmitting and it's not a storage cabinet that's just stagnant. It's actually you transmitting and receiving active vibrations all the time, right? Just swimming in pools that are always there, and you're calling it your memory. In every moment, she said, everything is being written over. Everything is always changing. It's changing, but it doesn't appear to change because you keep choosing the same thing over and over again. You keep coming new in the old way. What do they say in AA? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? That's what we've been doing. And she said, do you understand that meditating will solve the problem here? Like, it's just like, this is so powerful. This is a huge light bulb, not just to quiet your mind, not just to maybe see visions or explore other dimensions or a lot of the reasons that people are meditating to de-stress. This is how you tap into higher self, and higher self is hanging out with all the stuff in your vortex, waiting for you to come play. And the beautiful thing about it is right here and now is where all your power is. This is the point where your outer meets your inner. It has the opportunity for you to dissolve into the higher self. When you stop all the protesting, there's only one voice, guys. Like, that's the beautiful thing. That is your destiny. Gotta understand what she's talking about when she's talking about in the vortex. It's all happened instantly. That's what she means. And this is how you open the floodgates. She put it, look, you'd rather do other things than update the vibrational frequency and get in sync with who you really are and everything you want. You know, why are you choosing less for the drama, for the screenplay? Right? It doesn't make sense when she's putting it like that. And, she said, look, always checking in. Is this satisfying? If not, pivot. If not, pivot. And I really liked the log analogy too. She talked about, the flick of spark coming out of the fire. You can knock it off and you're fine. But if you let it simmer, it builds momentum. So that really becomes the game for us. That becomes the technique. We're always checking in. Is this satisfying? If not, we're finding a way to pivot. Work on the 16, 17 second idea. We'll go drop into meditation, because it's hard to go from, if you're in a negative spot, to all of a sudden go into a pure positive spot, right? The place you want to go to is neutral, right? Get neutral. And then that allows you from there, you can get into the pure positive spot, right? What a powerful, powerful perspective, powerful insight. I hope this has been as enlightening for you as me. I hope it has lightened you up, because this is relatively simple when you think about it, right? You can do this. You can just check in all the time. Is this satisfying or not? If not, I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to consciously take charge of my mind instead of letting it drive me and run me around like a mad person, right? I'm going to take control and take my life back and unlock all the goodies that are waiting in my vibrational escrow. Think of how many good things are waiting there for you that you've put there over your lifetime that you haven't seen shown up yet. It's just piling up, right? You are a creator waiting to unlock, put the right key in the right lock to open all the gifts. Pandora's box. This is it. You are doing it. You are ready, or you would not be hearing these words. So congratulations to each and every one of you. Had a little bit of a synchronicity as I was just about to start recording. I was like, what song can I like, if possible, to play a song that somehow speaks to the message of the day. And instantly I thought of the album that I created way back, and I've played it before. Actually, on the first 100 or so episodes, it was the intro song from the album that Dalian, who was my original co-host, still edits this show. Him and I got together and he produced the tracks, and I was vocals on the tracks, and I was thinking about what would be a good song, and I thought back to the meditation song, back in 2009 or whatever that we did, or it was called the meditation song, or Sip the Silence. And so this is off of that recording. If you guys ever are interested in checking it out, I put it on SoundCloud a few years ago, soundcloud.com/try-be, try-be. It's how you find it. My initials are BBB. Obviously, very ironic, because you can't try to be, right? And with my initials being BBB, I've always thought, all right, I wonder what I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn to be. And part of the first step is trying, right? And of course, then you become Yoda, who said, do or do not. There is no try. Actually, Dalian, you should edit in your version of Yoda, because you say it really well. You know the Yoda voice. That wasn't the Yoda voice. But this is Sip the Silence, the meditation song by Try B, and I hope you enjoy. Until next time, journey well. Love you all so, so much. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Like Yoda, you would like to speak.
With every day that goes by, the more I realize I can try and inspire every man, woman, child. With these words I can kindle, send you thoughts burn like fire. Unfathomable the depth of my desire. Higher and higher, farther and wider, feeling it stronger since I have decided. Being one-sided, where love is divided, leads me nowhere but right back where I started. Running and running and running wild, thoughts flowing frantic, can't quiet my mind. The panic can't stand it, I'm manic inside. Sip from the silence, taste the divine, sweet like the nectar right off of the vine, flowing inside, dissolving my mind, leaving a shell to be filled with this light. Soaring through space, transcending all time, diving into the circle, getting out of the line in the nick of time. 1 minute or 9, the difference is mine. Newton, the timeless sea of sublime. Running and running and running wild, thoughts flowing frantic, can't quiet my mind. The panic can't stand it, I'm manic inside. Sip from the silence, taste the divine. Running and running and running wild, thoughts flowing frantic, can't quiet my mind. The panic can't stand it, I'm manic inside. Sip from the silence, taste the divine. These thoughts are like clouds relentlessly rolling across the sky inside my mind's eye. The ceaseless banter of longings for the past and yearnings for the future. Yet in the end I find the only thing that's real, the only power I can wield, is to simply allow the ever-changing moment of now to be exactly the way it is, and move into the silence within. Running and running and running wild, thoughts flowing frantic, can't quiet my mind. The panic can't stand it, I'm manic inside. Sip from the silence, taste the divine. Running and running and running wild, thoughts flowing frantic, can't quiet my mind. The panic can't stand it, I'm manic inside. Sip from the silence, taste the divine. Ironic, all those years spent searching on the outside for something that lies within. No wonder it took me so long.